All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you please remain standing for a moment of silence, memory of Sam Swart and Kathy Hoover, two wonderful teachers that we had here, and I had the pleasure of having both of them. They'll be dearly missed. Okay. Thank you. All right, we have the approval of minutes from January 22nd. Do we have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then we also have the approval of minutes from February 13th. Do we have a motion to accept those?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry.
I'm still trying to get this in. I realize Paul's not here.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so the other minutes was Marilyn
Yes.
Yep.
Arnie.
and Arnie. Okay.
All right. And then we have the approval of the CSC and CPSC recommendations. If no one has any questions on that, I'll need a motion.
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we are up to public comment, and I know you guys already have the floor here in just a moment, so unless you have anything else that you want to, there's something like, oh, Paul, okay.
That quick trick.
Doing good, Paul.
Did you get everybody out? All right, so with no public comment, we will go on to possible discussion items. Let's see, do we have an update on the business manager civil service listing? Or are we going to hold that in exec?
We received a list from civil service and have been acting accordingly.
Okay. Sidewalk conditions. I know I had mentioned the night that we had the Townsend School Country thing, that the sidewalks were very icy, as well as Townsend School. I noticed that they have since been addressed, but that was a scary situation with them that evening. The policy process. Who wants to address how we're actually moving forward with that?
Well, we've gotten through, 4,000s in the policies now as a committee. We've been through a couple of them a couple times,
Right.
and back and forth. I believe our thoughts was to present the thousands and
The
zeros for review, and then we would have to pick have them set to go.
A date to be where they become
active.
in the future.
I think we're
so.
shooting for January 2020.
Right.
If we could, to have the whole book adopted. So the challenge we have is we want to go through and open up section by section and allow the 25-day review on those, not overwhelm the board members and the community with,
Right.
the whole entire book. Review them in parcels, the zeros, 1,000s, as we get them reviewed with ourselves and staff and get them back to NISBA and back to us as a final draft, then present them in chunks to the board with the end date we're looking at January 2020.
Right, for an
Having the
effective
whole
date
entire
for.
book done. Because the challenge is if we adopt by section, there's going to be cross-references that don't match up to existing policies. And then the policies we do have, we'd have to reject out of the old book. It would just be a mess. So being that we're redoing the whole entire thing, I think that was the most rational way we could come up with taking care of that. So tonight we'd propose the zeros and 1,000s
Right.
for the first reading tonight for everybody.
And then the public has 25 days
Mhm.
Right,
for the
right,
comment
that's our
period.
current policy, right?
Okay.
And to be
Yeah.
clear, just, well, I mean, we've got a few people in the audience, but possibly others watching at home. The policies that we're going over, apparently, we've had for some time. So NISBA was working on updating the policies. And even since they provided revised policies with suggested language, basically the regulations and different things have changed again and required that the policies even be updated from our most recent updates. So we're going through and really trying to tackle the whole book. We've involved administrative support and feedback for some policies that were outside of the scope of our understanding, so they can make us better informed as we try to have policies that guide the school. So,
And they're well overdue. I mean, as far as the policies go, this does a excellent job of really laying the foundation for where does the board interact, where does the board not interact, how does the administrators interact. The administrative policies we had 0 for administrative policies when we started this process.
Right.
And NISBA has some in there now to give some guidance as to where people operate and how they operate. When is it appropriate to do certain things, and guidance to staff too. So it's very important, and I think that by the time we're done with the whole entire book, it's going to be very well received as far as staff and the general public, I believe.
Well, I have to thank the policy committee because I know you guys have been meeting a lot, for many hours. So I really appreciate all your hard work.
Graydon brought pizza once, so that made it worth it.
That was
So,
a long section of policies. We needed that.
yeah, we did.
Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's a lot of work.
So we'll be looking to adopt next meeting after our 25-day with the.
Yep.
All right, we're doing the first reading for
Right.
tonight, and we'll be reading through those. Okay.
All right. So then the policy committee has been rescheduled.
We were originally going to have our meeting
Tonight.
tonight, so we do have to reschedule, and I can just email everyone
Okay.
for some dates, beginning of March.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend, sometime in the beginning of March. Get your calendars out, take a look at that. So, and we've got a general schedule to run through things, and we know that we might, during certain months, have to skip over because of other busyness that goes on with the board and school district, but it's our hope to have everything all put together by, as we said, effective on January 1.
And also, just for the public, the old policies will be deleted when the new book is
Right.
finished.
Right,
Right.
on January
We'll
1.
Yep.
clear it up.
That's the
All right.
current intent.
So we have, February 28th, we have our full-day retreat, and the topics will be special education overview, trust and teamwork, and then the database decision-making and student achievement. They were looking for hypothetical decisions regarding the data and student achievement to better prepare for our training. Is there any thoughts to that? Like, what might better help us as a board obtain
For down the
information?
road.
Yeah,
Right.
for the future. I think we're on the right path for that right now. With the curriculum coordinator, the information that Marilyn and I, and who else was there?
Arnie.
Even though it was a long night too.
Yeah.
The information that we received and how they did the breakdown of, they can track the students and how well, a student is doing, or if a student needs help, they can follow that student. I think that was it. We're moving in the right direction anyways, but I don't know if I really have anything.
I think if, say by tomorrow, you come up with some
Okay.
thought in a way that you might be able to use
Mhm.
the data to help you make decisions regarding students, you can just email that to me.
And when I seen that category, I was thinking more of the lines of receiving information of maybe what other districts do and see if that's going to work for our
I would pose
district.
that to them.
Yeah, that's how I seen it. But if you think of anything, just let Corey know, and then we'll let Darcy know. Let's see here. Oh, the superintendent search webinar with Tim Kramer.
Right.
They were looking for, that would be another training They were looking for dates in April.
Right, and that would be from 5 to 7.
Okay. And that would be here.
Right,
in the
and that
boardroom.
was one of your original topics,
Mm-hmm.
but since you canceled, you're willing to do it at no charge via webinar.
So I guess with the dates that are listed through the month of April, other than vacation week, I'm sure many may be going away for that week.
Mhm.
And the district may be,
If you could let me know by Friday, take
Okay.
a look at these dates.
whatever
Let me know by
works for
Friday.
you. All right. I think that was all for the discussion items.
Corey, just as a reminder on that too, some of those dates that were listed there are some that we already had listed for the principal search
Right, that was
also,
just
so we've got a
what he gave
cross-reference on
us.
that
Oh,
too.
I didn't
Yeah.
look at it myself. I
So
just
if you look at
gave
your
all the
principal
dates.
search calendar, you'll see some other some of those dates.
Dates are in here,
We're
okay.
going to use them already.
Okay. Okay, so correspondence, we have a special meeting that will be on March 6th, which is a Wednesday at 5 PM, and this will be for, it'll be prior to the budget workshop.
Mhm.
So just a reminder, March 6th. All right, we are up to the class trip. I'm jealous, you guys get to go to good play food.
Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Here again. Seems like I was here yesterday doing the same thing. It goes so fast. So this year, our seniors want to propose a trip to Boston. And we have our president, Jose Mirabal, and our vice president, Olivia Harvey, who are going to tell you all about it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. The class of 2019 has voted on the destination for the senior class trip, and the result is that this year's senior class would like to propose a 3-day trip to Boston, Massachusetts. We plan to depart from Walton on Thursday, June 13th at 7 a.m. We will travel to Six Flags New England for the day, and then proceed to our hotel for the evening. On Friday, we will travel to Hampton Beach and then enjoy a dinner cruise. Saturday, we will spend the day at Faneuil Hall and then attend a matinee performance of the Blue Man Group.
So the estimated expenses for the trip would be as follows. The buses, we would have one charter bus for 3 days and 2 nights, and that would be $4,450. The hotel would be $4,500. The dinner cruise would be $4,508. Blue Man Group would be $2,600, and then Six Flags would be $1,550. This all in total would cost $17,608, and then our class has $6,206. So the balance would be $11,582.
So $11,582 divided by 46 students is $252. $30 has been collected from each student, leaving $222 per person. So for students who participate in the magazine sales, chicken barbecue, and Gertrude Hawk chocolate sales, a percentage of their profits is used to reduce their costs. Other fundraisers include scarf sales, snowball dance, and t-shirt sales.
And then the trip prices include a breakfast each morning and one dinner. Students will need to personally bring spending money and money for remaining meals. Our chaperones are Miss Rosa, Miss Albrecht, Mr. Preston, and Mr. Loomis. That's it.
How many, are all the students planning on going, or?
Not all of them.
We have about 46, which is the biggest number I've had in a long time.
Okay, just asking.
I was gonna say, that is pretty high.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's good. It's a great place to go.
And Blue Man Group is a great show, by the way.
Mhm.
We've learned, the first year I took them and we sat in the splash zone. Now we sit in the back.
Mhm.
Now, with all that fundraising, how much do you anticipate that it would cut the 222 down?
I have students who are already, $50, $60 is all they have left to pay, and they still have another fundraiser to do.
Wow.
So I have students that earn well over the total amount. So it's completely free, plus they've made some money for the class, to students who don't do anything and have to pay the whole amount. So it is very possible to go for free if you do the fundraising.
Depends on how hard you want to work.
Yep. Yep.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And I didn't know if you guys want to wait until we vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, we're up to number 7, additions to the agenda.
We have a few additions to the agenda, but first I would just like to bring your attention to some changes that were made regarding items that were already on the agenda since originally written. We added a volunteer coach. He's a volunteer assistant baseball coach, and that would be Jim Jacob Jr. And that's to item 8I, that's athletic recommendations. And we have revised the start date of a probationary teacher, Rebecca Doig. I believe it was March 18th was her original date, but since the meeting got postponed, she'll be turning in a resignation tomorrow, which would push it out to April 1st.
April, okay.
And we've removed the installment purchase agreement from the consent agenda, and it is now a standalone new business item for discussion first. And relating to your executive session, litigation with Mr. Clough, we have 4 new business items that will be on the new business. 9F is the settlement agreement and release of claims. 9G is a withdrawal of disciplinary charges. 9H is a resignation from Mr. Clough. And 9I is an appointment of an interim superintendent, Mr. Thomas.
Okay. All right, the consent agenda. We have also the financial reports, the approval of the senior class trip, the declared surplus. That doesn't look like there's much there on that one.
Look.
We have the establishment of a scholarship. This establishment is from Walton Central School class of 1979. This is a one-time award.
Just this year.
Just this
their
year.
anniversary year.
And this will, a student or students, depending on how much money they raise, will receive either $500 each or an amount above $500, depending on the donations. We have resignations. We have a resignation of Deborah Cole, and that will become effective June 30th, 2019. Resignation of Kelly Gates, effective February 24th, and Jason Clark, effective February 23rd. And then we have a few appointments. Danny Hodge as a substitute bus driver, William Prim, substitute bus driver, and Kristen Coons as a substitute teacher aide, as well as a substitute school monitor. And then we also have the athletic recommendations. And that is it. So do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda items?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Have fun.
Enjoy.
Raise that money. All right, let's see, we are up to new business. We have several donations. We have a $165 donation to the Townsend Elementary School in memory of Carl Whitaker. $25 from Mr. and Mrs. Lyndon Robinson in memory of Carl Whitaker. $100 from the East Branch Community Church in memory of Carl Whitaker as well. $300 from the 5-County Ag Charity Fund to the Walton Chapter FFA. $1,500 from Jack Cole to the High School Yearbook Club. $500 from an anonymous donor to the Walton Central School Class of 1979 Scholarship, $500 from Jeff Held for the Class of 1979 Scholarship, $50 from Mr. and Mrs. Randall Alderman, and that as well as for the 1979 Scholarship, $100 from Christina McLaughlin, for the Class of 1979, and $100 from Mr. and Mrs. Duncan Heiler for the 1979 Scholarship, and $200 from Fred's Body Shop for the 1979 Scholarship.
One more.
Oh, and one
One more.
$100 from Mr. and Mrs. James Truman to the Class of 1979 Scholarship. That's a lot. We're well over that now. All right, so do we have a motion to accept the donations?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, and I remember what I'm up to here, 9B, emergency appointments. We have an emergency appointment for Denise Kloss for a teacher aide, and that's to commence on February 13th. Cheryl Green as a custodial worker, and commence on February 13th. And then Luke Dunn, a custodial worker as well, and to commence on February 13th. Do we have a motion to accept them?
I make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then 9C, personal appointments. We have the appointment of Rebecca Doig, and that is for the music department, and that will be starting April 1st, 2019. Do we have, that's the only one on that one, isn't it? Correct. Okay, so do we have a motion to accept that?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, and then we have personal approvals. This will be for a motion to increase the salaries for Danny Hodges as assistant building maintenance mechanic. The salary will be increased by $1,200. And William Prinn, assistant building maintenance mechanic, the salary also to be increased for $1,200. And these will be retroactively. Danny Hodge to July 1, and Bill Prim prorated to January 9th.
Motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we are up to 9E, the approval of the installment purchase agreement. I asked that this had been pulled from exec so we could have further discussion. One of my things was the interest. Why can't we budget the dollar amount that is needed for these, purchases to go into the future and not have to pay the interest on an annual basis? I don't know what your thoughts are. I know there wasn't a lot of school districts that still participate in this. So I talked briefly to Tim, and if you want to touch on how we can possibly
Pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly. Pros and cons. Give me the highlights here.
All right, so since I'm looking at people's backs, the purpose of the installment purchase agreement is like any other loan. It gives you the ability to buy something now and have it currently. So the idea would be, if you decided that you were going to be, and I'm just throwing numbers, this isn't a commercial for the dollar amount, but if you wanted to do $100,000 and you thought that's what you needed each, so putting $100,000 in the budget is difficult. But let's say you wanted to do 20, so you would do 20 one year, then you do another, then 20, so you do 40 the second year, so you build up to 100,000. Well, over that 5-year period, you have about $300,000 worth of stuff that you've purchased. Whereas with an installment purchase agreement, you'd be able to buy $100,000 each year, and your total expense would stay $100,000. So over that 5-year period, you can have $500,000 worth of stuff less the interest, so maybe it's $450,000. So that's the upside of an installment purchase agreement, that you have the ability to buy things now and use them. The unfortunate part is not only the interest, but as you've also brought up, the idea that you're paying over time for something that is now obsolete. So you're still paying for it in the last year, and then the following year you're going to scrap it and get rid of it. So that is difficult as well. So the getting out of an installment purchase cycle is difficult because you're building it up a little bit at a time until you get to that dollar amount that you're going to spend, and then when this one falls off, you add another one, and you continue to stay in that cycle. So to pull it out becomes difficult. The other part of that is because they're aidable, it also becomes difficult because you're paid the aid on the following year from when you actually make the payment. So that also creates a little, maybe you have to be a little more finesse in order to get out of that cycle. So, in looking at the payments that we're currently making, I don't know how many years ago now, but it must have been 5 years because it's around this current year we're making the final installment payment on copiers and things that we had, and that was larger than most. So that payment on that is a little over $35,000. So the thought would be that we take that $35,000 and put it into a different line item where we're spending the $35,000 in cash towards the technology upgrades, and then take a smaller IPA the following that year to still maintain that same cost or same expense, and then each year bring this part up so we're paying cash and bring the installment purchase agreements down so we're paying less interest over time. That'll allow us to maintain what the number we were using was $80,000 because that's kind of what each of the IPAs have been, other than that really big one. They've been around $80,000. So the idea would be that you could get to, within 4 years, spending $80,000 in cash each year and not having the interest. So you'd be buying the items outright at that point in time. And it's actually, I mean, like I said in the email that I sent, you ask the question and it just happens to fall into a good time period because that one payment comes off, and we're not taking it out necessarily, we're just putting it in a different category, both of which are aidable. The installment purchase agreement, again, it's in the same kind of category as the buying it outright. It's just that it's hard to buy it outright because adding that money into your budget is difficult. To increase that one line item by that dollar amount is difficult. And that will allow, so the way it is going to work is if we go this route, net of the aid, and the aid is taken, again, the following year. So you make the payment this year, and then whatever payment you made the previous year, that's the aid you get in this year. So it's kind of crosses over. But the idea is that over the next 3 years, it stays around the same, the net expense minus the aid that we get. It'll stay around 46,000, and then it drops to 37,000. It ultimately gets down to you're purchasing $80,000 worth of equipment, but with the aid, it's only costing around 30, because we're at 63.5% for BOCES aid. That's the thought process.
So if we put that into our budget, what would be the same aid on that money?
They're both aided the same way. They're both 63%.
So there'd be no change.
Right. So the problem isn't necessarily the aid side. The thing is, if I take out the installment purchase agreement and I decide I'm only going to do the $80,000 this year, I'm still paying those installments that are still out there, plus the $80,000. So now I got to increase my expense side of the budget in that first year because I won't get the aid back until the following year. So that's where it becomes a difficult thing to just increase that line item.
What did you refer him to? The wizard?
The wizard. The numbers wizard.
It's really, so, I mean, it's not, I say this, it's not necessarily right. I mean, basically what I tried to do is to figure out so that, I'll pass that, you can take a look, is that we're still maintaining the same roughly $80,000. And Rick and I talked again about this today, that, you know, the idea of spending probably anywhere between 60 and 80 in a given year is a reasonable estimate for maintaining our instructional stuff. The other thing that's part of this is that we're only talking about the instructional items. You know, our computer labs in the different places. It's not necessarily the infrastructure items. The infrastructure stuff, we've been using E-rate money and still feel that that's probably the best way to do that. Instructional stuff that's purchased through BOCES is a better than having administrative or other items that are purchased through BOCES. So that's why we want to keep the instructional stuff through the BOCES coasters. And there can be approved that way. And what we're really talking about is just kind of, it's not really a shell game necessarily, but we're just moving out of having to borrow the money to do it and pushing that money into spending it and buying it for cash. So, I mean, you guys, so this is, when you buy, you know, people say when you buy a car, that, you know, if you want to pay cash for your car, a lot of your, you know, financial gurus will say, okay, take that money and pay yourself, put the money in each time. And then when you go buy your next car, you have cash to buy it. Okay, that's great, but you unfortunately have to start over here with the cash to buy the car to begin with.
Right.
And you know, that's where, from a budgetary standpoint, it becomes difficult. We can't necessarily grab that cash and just pay it outright. And you know, I appreciate you said, you know, like Downsville. The other difference is that in Downsville, that's the way they always did it, because they didn't get
They
had that money already kind of embedded in it. In the budget. So the challenge isn't doing it, the challenge is now, given where you are, getting to that point without necessarily creating a budgetary problem.
So for this year, we would enter this agreement.
Mm-hmm.
The other one comes off, and then we would start transitioning.
Correct. Next year, I think, I don't remember now what I have on it, but the idea is to still stay at, so if it's $37,000 that we're pulling out and putting into being paid cash, then the other one would be $40,000. Because it's not a full 80. I'm you know, trying to make it stay even, so the dollar amounts, I'm rounding when I'm talking to you, but it's anywhere between 60 and 80, depending on which year, because I wanted to keep it sort of budget neutral over the 3 years or 4 years that we're trying to change things. The other thing that's important to note, and you know, Rick and I have talked about that even today, is that, so if for some reason we don't need $80,000 worth of equipment, then the following year, those dollars that we don't spend are refunded back to us. So if we put in the budget, the way BOCES works for this kind of thing is that if I put $80,000 in, they charge me 1/10 of that each month. Until the end of the year. And then we buy things against that during the year. If we do not buy $80,000 worth of stuff, let's say we only bought 70, then the following year when we get the BOCES refund, $10,000 comes back to us. The challenge with this is not much different. It really involves trust on a couple of different levels, all right? We have to trust that, you know, when they purchase the stuff, they're going to purchase the items that we need and not necessarily spend up to that dollar amount just because that dollar amount is there. Rick and I have had that conversation. Mm-hmm. The other part of that is that in order for, you know, technology or other people to feel comfortable with that, we have to not steal it from him in subsequent years just because he didn't spend it. Because that also creates a problem where now you get into the scenario where people are just spending it because they're afraid if they don't demonstrate the need, then we're going to pull it from them and get rid of it. So there is a trust on both sides that that's the way that would work. We haven't spent 80 each year. I think when we went through, I mean, it's hard to say because it's 80,000 in there, but typically the amount of equipment, and it says it on that sheet, is somewhere between 70 and 78 because of the interest and all that. Right. So we go through that.
So what is everyone's thoughts? Do we want to try to pull out of it and gradually and start budgeting on our own?
So if I'm following correctly, we could start that process this year without affecting our technology.
So
Budget.
the IPA that's currently here, we would say yes to that one, so that we're purchasing the stuff this year, because if we don't, then what puts us behind again in keeping our equipment up to date.
Right.
So the idea would be, say yes to this one. That one IPA that we're spending $35,000 on, next year when I do the BOCES budget, I don't put it into an IPA, I put it into a different area. It stays in the BOCES budget, it just gets put into a different area. And then what Rick will have to do is when he's doing his purchasing, he's going to have to make sure that he tells them where to take it out, which bucket to take it out.
Out of the 35,000 or the IPA.
Right.
And the idea was that also, that was, that first purchase, like you said, I mean, that was a pretty high one, so 35,000 relative to the subsequent, which are closer to $16,000. So, I mean, we aren't making $170,000 purchase, whatever that first year was, we're looking at 80 or thereabouts, so we're gonna have lower debt to service just on that.
Argumentatively sake, if we wanted to inflate that fast, you could put that 35,000 in there and then add like a $5,000 increase to our regular budget and add that over and actually do 40 to
Yes,
increase that.
right.
If you want
Again,
to.
that
without
changes
getting
some of
carried
it,
away.
it's not then budget neutral, because we're adding some
Adding money to
additional
the budget.
expense, but we won't get that revenue back until the following year.
Okay, I'm just,
So, again, you can do any of that kind of stuff, but it's, my scenario really was just about trying to make it budget neutral. So that we get the money that we need in order to keep our technology moving forward, but not necessarily create a budgetary problem.
right. I guess the reason I was asking that though is if we go down this road and we foresee something coming up, if we get into next year's budget and then we see that we're having a problem with something and we need to we're gonna have to have expenditure the following year, we could increase that budget line
Absolutely.
with no,
Yes, and again, I would say the same thing, unless it happens to be so costly that we can't do it and we have to do where you buy it over a period of time. But if it's just something that we can absorb into it, then I would say let's increase that line item on the budget.
okay.
All right. Are there any further discussions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just for the record, there would still be a smaller IPA the next few years. correct?
Yes, and that's what we had talked about. So
Okay. I
Yep.
it pulls down,
Yep.
again, it's interesting, we'll get to the spot. And so to your point before, when we talked about, the expenses, we're spending $80,000, but getting back, 50 of that for, in aid the following year. And then when you're doing that and you're maintaining that investment, the impact to the budget is the same. It's about $30,000. So you're leveraging the aid to get $80,000 worth of equipment for 30. And that's kind of where you want to be, obviously.
And we'd be saving, what was the interest you're figuring?
The interest was, what did we say? It was probably.
Well, this time it's a little over 7,000.
Yeah, I was going to say
and
anywhere
things
between
been
5 and
around
8,
there.
depending.
Yep.
And this is not, like, the first one that we did was not that first one that was there. It's been done, IPAs have been done here since, I think Mr. McNerney did it, 10, 11, yeah, I'd say. But they haven't been consistent. And since what? Was it the second month I was with you or the first month? I've been talking about consistency and trying to keep the budget at that same stable level so that whatever investment we need in order to maintain our technology should just be consistent and not have those situations where we now have to do 168,000 because we haven't addressed it in so long.
Right.
So Rick has done a good job putting together a plan so that he knows what areas need to be replaced in a given year. The plan is, pretty consistent. He knows what he's going to do. The problem is that, when you do that and you look 5 years out, it may not be replaced with another desktop. It might be replaced with a new device, a Chromebook or whatever. So
Right.
it's not always like for like, but the investment is roughly the same.
But even at a $5,000 to $7,000 your interest savings, that's money that could roll back into that
Right.
to help boost that line item
Right.
at a higher rate and
That's how
not
many
affect your
Chromebooks?
budget. I'm just,
$5 grand, that's 30.
so I'm just saying that's something though, that's not just,
So again, good question, good thought process. So I think that, getting out of that cycle where we're spending it for the borrowing and we can, leverage those dollars for, actual pieces
purchases,
of equipment.
yeah.
I think that's a good choice.
But you have to commit long-term not to penalize for they use it or lose it.
Right.
Right.
If it's not needed that time and it's gonna be needed another year, you gotta make sure you maintain that budget.
Well, and that's what I said, we would have better control.
That's the absolute key piece is
over
long-term,
that.
smooth it out.
Yep.
And then if we can gain that $6,000 to $7,000 back and use it for technology here instead of giving it to somebody for interest rates, I'm all in favor of it. That looks like a good rational plan moving forward. And we just have to make sure we commit to staff that we're, you're not gonna pull that budget line away from them next year if they don't use it all. It's not a penalty.
Right.
Right? That's why the state and other organizations get in trouble, is they use it or lose it.
All right, so we will leave the rest up to you.
Thanks, Tim.
That's fine. Rick is well aware of what we're looking to do and you guys are as well, so I think we'll be fine.
Well, thank you. I think that was a long overdue conversation. I'm glad we had it. So, good.
He's good.
All right, so approval. Yep. A motion to approve the installment purchase agreement as discussed.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we are up to 10A, the policies first reading.
Oh, we have those addendums.
That was my little note here, Corey. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Let me back up. We are actually up to 9F.
Right.
All right, 9F, this is a settlement agreement and release of claims with Roger Clough. This is dated February 20th. This is to, sorry, I should say this is to ratify this settlement agreement. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then we have 9G. This is to withdraw the disciplinary charges against Roger Clough. And that was reference to our August 21st meeting. Do we have a motion to withdraw the disciplinary charges?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then am I going too fast? I should ask. Okay. 9H, this is to accept the resignation of Roger B. Clough II from his position as superintendent of schools from the Walton Central School, and this will be effective March 1st, 2019. Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And 9I, this is an appointment. We hereby appoint Larry Thomas as an interim superintendent of schools, and this will be effective March 1st, 2019 at his current per diem rate of $650 according to the employment agreement previously agreed to. Do we have a motion to accept that?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have no audience, but anybody that may be listening from home. Ladies and gentlemen, as you just witnessed, the Board of Education has ratified an agreement between the district and Roger Clough to bring an end to the dispute between us. Pursuant to the settlement agreement, the district withdraws the disciplinary charges against him in exchange for his voluntary resignation. The board also accepts that resignation and has upgraded Larry Thomas's appointment from acting superintendent to interim superintendent while we begin the search for the district's next permanent school leader. The board acknowledges that this has been a difficult process for all involved, as well as the entire school community. But we are pleased to report that we have reached an amicable resolution of our differences. Our appreciation goes out to the entire school community for its patience through this difficult process. We are now up to 10 policy update. Policies first reading. Paul, would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just get it.
Frankfurt?
Yeah. Okay. Policies for the first reading. 0 section, 0000, mission, vision, and belief statement. 0100, equal opportunity and non-discrimination. 0100E, equal opportunity and non-discrimination exhibit. 0110, sexual harassment. 0110E, sexual harassment exhibit. 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. 0115E, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention exhibit. 0300, accountability. 0310, board self-evaluation. 0320, evaluation of superintendent. 1000 section. Policy number 1000, community relations goals. Policy 1050, annual district election and budget vote. 1100, public information program. 1120, school district records. 1120E, school district records exhibit. 1130, news media relations. 1145, dissemination of materials through the schools. 1222, relationship with booster organizations. 1230, public participation and board meetings. 1310, staff participation in political activities. 1400, public complaints. 1420, complaints about curricula or institutional material. 1500, public use of school facilities. 1530, smoking and other tobacco use on school premises. 1740, relationship with non-public students. 1741, homeschooled students. 1741E, homeschooled students exhibit. 1800, donations, gifts, and grants to the district. 1900, parent and family engagement. 1900-E.1, parent and family engagement, exhibit 1. 1900-E.2, parent and family engagement, exhibit 2. 1925, interpreters for hearing impaired parents. 1925-E.1, interpreters for hearing impaired parents, exhibit 1. 1925-E-.2, interpreters for hearing impaired parents, exhibit 2.
Thank you. Okay, so this will be considered the first reading of those policies, and which will give the public 25-day comment period. Do we have a motion to accept them as the first reading?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
It's just some light reading for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more words behind those ones right there.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's a lot of work. A lot more to come yet, too.
Mhm.
All right, we are up to 11, the administrative remarks, right?
Yeah.
Everything else, then, busy.
So it's been a interesting month, what with some snow days and some delays and a vacation and the fact that we had to cancel one board meeting. And so it's been just a very interesting month for everybody, including yourselves, I'm sure. I'll just highlight a couple quick items. And as you can see, I told my staff tonight that because of all the mix-up with things over the last couple of weeks and everything, that we would kind of let them go for tonight, and we'll see them again next month, if that's okay with everyone. Anyway, our principal search is, high school principal search is on target, on calendar. Application deadline is this coming Friday, March 1st. I don't have a status report to give you yet as far as how many applications we've got, because I'll know Friday, and then I'll give you a definitive report on that. But we are currently soliciting membership for our finalist interview teams. I've sent out a memo to the president of the Teachers Association and for soliciting for students and all of those sorts of things. So we've started that process, and we're on schedule at this point. Backing up to the 2nd of February, I did attend the legislative breakfast. I think I told you all that I was going to attend that. All of the legislators of the area were either represented, they either came themselves or they had sent a representative. So it was actually a nice meeting, nicer than the one that we went to because we didn't quite get that same kind of participation. But this time everybody was represented, and it was a good meeting. And I had showed you before the position statements from the superintendents, and some of our talked a little bit tonight about concerns with the budget, and all of that was transmitted to those fine folks. We did try one day during the month of December. We got the notice, and everybody got very scared about how cold it was going to be. We had some concern about students walking to school, so we set up a little program for them to be picked up by the buses. And of course, we had a snow day the one day, but we tried to plug it in for the second day. And we really didn't have very much participation. I'm glad that we did it because I think it was a good thing for us to try to do, to see if it was how it would go. But we really didn't have that much participation. I mean, to the extent that there were maybe 4 or 6 students total at the pickup points total. Between the two schools and everything. So that said, the data doesn't really support us doing that again, but I'm glad that we gave it a try. Jane and I have already been talking about some summer professional development. Last year there was some professional development for the teachers. This year what we're talking about is a professional development program right at the very end of August, and also doing that in conjunction with orientation for new staff as well. So we're looking at the last 2 weeks of August as being those types of weeks. I want to remind everybody that we're coming off of a grant, Jane calls it the SIG grant, which is School Improvement Grant, but it was a sizable chunk of money. It was a federal set of money that flowed through to the state. And that money actually has to be used by the end of the federal fiscal year, which is August 31st. We don't use it by then, it'll be gone. And so we are going to try to put together a quality program, but that's at no cost to the district. Likewise, she has some funds set aside for an administrative retreat. At this point, we were looking at maybe doing an administrative retreat during the last, I think it's the last full week of July is what we were looking at. But it was my thought that when you think about having a new administrative staff all coming together for the first time, that it might not be a bad idea to put us all, to get us all together and have a formal program to get to know policies, to get to know practices, get to know why things in Walton run the way they do. So we're in the plan of doing that. But again, that's part of that SIG grant, and there's not going to be any cost to the district for that. I think it'll be dollars well spent so that we can all get on the same page to start the school year with a new staff.
Is that the funds that are currently helping with Dr. Lori Strong?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the federal.
Yep. Those are some of the big things that we've been working on lately. I have been working on a school calendar for next year and academic calendar. And I turned to Corey today, and with the month of the way that it's been, I said, "Did we send this out to you guys or not?" Neither one of us could remember, so I ran off another copy for you to take a look at. The print is rather small, but I'm basing. Bless you. I have included in here a recommendation for board meetings for next year, which continue, I just took from what you did this year. So Tuesdays, 2 a month, one during July, one during August, that kind of thing is where you were before. And so I've copied, pretty much copied that for the coming year. Certainly, if you have any questions about anything, or you see someplace where I've messed up, or that we ought to be considering things differently, please let me know as soon as you possibly can. I'd love to have this in your hands by the last meeting in March, so that we can approve it with whatever modifications we may need to do. So, and I apologize for the small type, but it's hard to get all that information on there without going that way with just one page.
In the past, we had had discussion about the BOCES calendar. Does this more or less follow suit with the BOCES calendar? So
Yes,
that
this
students are-
does emulate the BOCES calendar. I think I said to you before, one of my concerns is that if you don't do that, then you're potentially robbing some students who need that seat time or that practice time for their certifications. And so I have tried, with respect to all of the vacations, it follows the BOCES calendar perfectly. And then, Walton has a few unique things like we do our half-day student attendance, and then with teacher and parent conferences in the afternoon. Those things are plugged in, but those shouldn't be impacted, shouldn't impact the BOCES issues. So anyway, take a good, strong look at it if you will, and if you've got any questions, or if you see a place where maybe I should be looking at things a little bit differently. I have shared this with the Teachers Association as well, and solicited their input. I understand that in the past they've had opportunity to provide input, so. And that's that.
Good.
And really, that's all I want to report on to you at this point, unless you have a question about something else. I would like to have an executive session, if you will, one of them to discuss a particular employment issue. Did I say that right, Corey? And the other one to talk about our current status of negotiations.
And the future employment of a particular person?
Yeah, for future employment of a particular person. Yes, thank you.
Before you go into exec, may I ask a question? When you came out of exec session before, was Paul here for that vote? Because I had him.
He was not.
Here. So can I just fix that?
Yep.
And I will also ask that Tim remain for the executive session as well.
You're getting a full night tonight,
Just hanging out with you guys all night?
Good to have you.
You're in good company.
All right, do we have a motion to enter executive session?
I'll make it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right.